Why aren't you using property change.foddy? Damn you, Lachlan, the Incredible Hulk.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Phil Potts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone's going well. Hey, Umid and Dragon and Lachlan, the Loader King. Welcome. So, all good, Umid. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So one thing you might notice is I just mentioned in the chat I've turned on closed captions just to see how they're going to work. If you don't want to see closed captions, then you should be able to control it with the little closed caption button inside of Twitch. So just experimenting with that to see how well it does. All right, but let's go and have a look at what we're gonna do today. And I can see Anime Lover, you've finished your first program for class. Is anything I learnt from it, it's to write code out by hand first. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, congratulations, Anime. Yeah, I like to draw things out, actually. And, you know, I sometimes when I code, I actually write all of my comments, which is, you know, some people don't like lots of comments in code, but sometimes to get things sort of in the right, you know, just to work out what I want to do, I'll write comments first of all, and then I'll go back and I'll fill that in. And Anime Lover, you went to class as well. Well, that's good. That's a good start. Fantastic. All right, let's have a look at what we're going to do today. So basically, we're continuing on with our Xamarin.Forms UI challenge, which is our book swap interactions. So we have some code that's up in GitHub. Let me post some links around the place. And what this is a design by Tubik Studios. Really nice little design, which I snagged from Dribble. And we're just trying to reproduce this to just to play around with Xamarin.Forms and see if we can get things working nicely. Okay, so we've done a couple of streams on this. We've got the basics there. Today's going to be a lot of sort of fine tuning, I think. So let's have a look at where we are with this application at the moment. So here's what we have. This is the application that we have in GitHub. This is just running on an Android emulator. I've actually got my Mac in to get serviced, so or one of my Macs. So I'll be running on Android all today. So what we have is, you know, first of all, we've got our layout here, which is, you know, quite nice. It's got colors. As we scroll, you'll notice that it's also changing the background of cells as well. So the way we're doing that is we're basically just using the messaging center to say, hey, I've changed my scroll position. And then the cells are responsible for updating their angles on there. Okay, so that was the first part. The second part that we, or the second stream, we had a look at this page here. So this is the swap details page. And so what this is doing is it's showing us the book you're swapping from, the book you want to swap to, and we have this section in here. Right, and so what we did is, or one of the really nice little libraries we used was a shared transition library, which turns out to be pretty magical. It was pretty amazing. So you see, as we navigate between pages, it basically puts those books into the right position, which is pretty cool. And towards the end of the last stream, we also tried, we thought we'd push it a little bit harder, and we got it to also basically navigate or do a shared transition between the titles. And we had a little bit of trouble with that because it didn't quite work for us, because if we have a look at the design here, as a book comes in and as it does its shared transition, it actually just sort of animates this up. And so you'll notice here that it sort of jumps around a little bit. So we're probably pushing it a little bit too hard in that regard. So how's the day? My day's great. It's Friday. So that's a good day. And you know, I love doing these streams. It takes me away from sort of what I have to do for my normal job. Okay, so the shared transitions, Thursday night for you. Yeah, Thursday for most people, actually, apart from those of us in Australia or New Zealand, or perhaps India's morning as well. Okay, so one of the reasons we wanted to do that shared transition of the titles here was because, well, it's cool. But also when we go back a page, it's kind of nice that these, not only the book, but also the titles animate back as well. Right? So that's pretty cool. So we kind of don't want to totally get rid of these animations inside of here, but it just doesn't kind of work when we transition to this page. So I had some thoughts on this, and what I think we'll do is basically remove this out, remove the title out of the shared transition when we're going to this page, but when we're on that page, add it back in so that it will animate back out. Okay. And the way we should be able to do that is just literally don't put it in the group, but when we come to this page, add it to the group. Okay. But yeah, we are. This is our basic layout.
Today we're gonna
Hey Pete Jimmy.
with Mr. Kim Phil Potts.
Thanks for the follow.
Oh, how amazing you'll be.
And welcome. So if you've got any questions or anything, Pete Jimmy, feel free to ask, but thanks so much for the follow. All right, now let's have a look at what we're going to do then in today's stream. Let me get this out of the way. This is sort of my basic sort of plan here. So let's fix up that shared transition. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a hack here, I suppose, but we'll work on that shared transition. The next thing we want to work on is we want to work on this swap animation expanding out. So what I'm talking about here is this center bit sort of animating out where it says swap. We'll put that in. We've got this rotating swap icon that we're going to put in there. And we're also going to have to color some things as well. So we sort of talked about that a little bit as well. There's a few different options. Dragon provided a link to a recolor sample that he found for PNGs. I found a little bit of code which might do it for us in terms of using SVGs. So that's what I'm going to try and implement and see how that goes. So we won't use font icon. I couldn't find any good font awesome icons for what we need to do, but there's a few things that we have to color. So one of those things is this animating arrow. Yep. We also have to go ahead and we have to color these little bookmarks here as well, right? So an SVG, I like SVGs. They resize nicely. We just need to be able to recolor them appropriately. Okay, so that's sort of the what we're going to do there. And then we'll have a look at the bottom book layout, and then we'll basically be done with this one, I think. Okay, so let's jump over into some code and let's see if we can't fix up this shared transition. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll stop this. Let's have a look at the page. So we have our swap details page. So the way this shared transitions is working is down here, we've got ourselves there's our image, right? So our image is part of the shared transition. It's called, the first image is called from cover image. The second one that we have is this one here, which is the one that's causing us a little bit of trouble, from title label. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to remove it out of here. Right? So let's get rid of that. And what we'll do instead is in our code behind for this page, right, in our on appearing, let's add the elements to the shared transition. Right, so basically we're gonna do this. We're gonna put our from title. Let's just check if we've got a name. We do have a name. So this is an attached property that we have. Okay, so with an attached property, the way that we would go ahead and we'd set that is this is sort of saying, set the transition name. So I should be able to, being an attached property, if I want to go and reference it, I should be able to say like transition. Let's add a namespace in here. Yep. And I'm setting the name attached property. So I can say set name, the control I want to set it for, which is our from title label, and we give it the name. So it's just from title. Okay. So hopefully what that'll do is it will add it into the transitions so that when we transition out, it will then work for us. So we'll try and do that the same thing for the from author label as well. So we'll get rid of this one. Put this in here for a moment in case it doesn't work. So say transition.setName from author label, and then we'll add that in as the from author. Okay, so the idea, as I said, it'll go and add them in. Let's see if it works. That might be a solution to our problem. So Dragon says you might have to set the transition name after the animations have completed. Yeah, maybe, but I think it's the transition library's already done its transition by the time it gets here, because that's part of our problem, I think. And Dragon, I can see you, hang on a second, I'm going to pop this chat window out. Plonk it over here. And having done that, of course, lost your chat message. But I think you were talking about you've got your previewer working, which is nice. All right, let's have a look at what this does. Now I've totally lost my chat window. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can't get that back. There we go. So you finally got Hot Reload to work on your iOS build, but only works on a simulator for me. Otherwise, I get an error saying it can't place a debug breakpoint. Yeah, it's probably a good thing to add as a bug. All right, let's try it out. Okay, so that basically brought that in. Okay, cool. So when it went out, it actually went ahead and it did that shared transition. Okay, but here it's not involved in the shared transition, so it doesn't get that weird jump that we're trying to avoid. Okay, so that's good. That's good, right? That's pretty much what we're after. It doesn't seem to really be a problem for this bottom one, so we might have a look at that and see whether we need to do it or not. Maybe it's going to be cool. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to say that that's pretty much right. Means I can get rid of this little bit of code that I had here. Beautiful. Okay, that's cool. That works. Nice. All right, what else do we have on our list of things to do? I'm going to claim that's fixed. Okay, the swap animation expanding out. Let's have a look at this bad boy. So with this one, essentially what happens is this little pen here. So this section here actually expands out as the animation happens. And in fact, let me see if I can find a video version of the layout so we can sort of have a look at it in slow-mo, if you like. Version of it. Here we go. Here we are. This is a video of what's going on, essentially. Okay, so let's have a look. When we come into this page, our animations all kick off, doing their various things. And then once this line has come across and animated, it then sort of pops in and then expands out. And then we have a rotating icon there as well. Okay, so let's get that working. So I think we're going to need a we're going to basically have an expand. Probably, do we need an opacity? We need an opacity for what's inside, but we're basically going to change the width of it during an animation and sort of change the scale of it as well. Okay, Dragon says, so I had an idea of how you can better view your GIFs in slow-mo. You could upload a private video to YouTube and use their 0.25 speed option. Yeah, that's an option. Can I do it in here? I could probably, if I loaded it up in VLC, I could probably also run it in slow-mo. But yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I like that. Okay, and question there for Anime Lover. So what made you choose computer sciences over other degrees? Pretty much for me, it's because I've always been a nerd. So my first computer was an Apple IIe, which my parents bought when we were kids. And my brothers used to play games on it, but I used to get these magazines and I used to type in the code, and I was always amazed that I could make this computer do something. And so I just really got into computers when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that, and just always did it. So yeah, then continued to do computing, and then got into C programming. Sort of went from there, really. So I'd like to say I sort of chose it, but I think it chose me. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Computer science is amazing. All right, so let's do this animation. So we're going to have to probably name some elements here. Anime Lover says it's more theory, but you use a keyboard to implement the theories to solve problems. Well, I kind of think of it as, you visualize an idea in your head, right? And then, yeah, exactly. You can then sort of make that idea come to life. So it's a pretty special thing. So I definitely see it as a creative pursuit. Not everyone sees IT as creative, but I do. And yeah, I really enjoy that. All right, let's have a look at our swap details. So inside of here, we've got our swap from book. Let me collapse that up just to get it out of the way. Okay, so the main sort of circular bit is pancake view. Okay, so we're going to pancake view here, which has a height request of 50, a width request of 200. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to give that a name. So I don't know, swap panel, about that. Okay. And we're also going to have to work with this label here as well. So we'll give this label a name while we're here. So I don't know, like our swap label, why not? So Anime Lover says it's fun but stressful at the same time. Yeah, it's funny because I kind of try and teach my daughter how to code a little bit, and she finds it incredibly frustrating, when things don't work. But we sort of do a little bit of Unity development, so game development, and I find that's really nice because it gives a little bit more real-time feedback. You can change values as it's running. And you can see changes that happen. So Unity is a great way of teaching kids, I reckon. Okay, so we've got our swap label, we've got our swap panel. We're going to start this. Off setting it at a smaller size. So we've got some initial values that we set in here. Dragon, your daughter has no parts in learning how to code. She just wants to play games. Well, my daughter's the same as well. She just wants to play games, but I sort of mentioned to her that that's really hard to make a living out of unless you're like a YouTube star or a Twitch star. And the chance of being that is super, well, pretty much close to zero. But I sort of mentioned to her if she wants to do games, learning how to write them is a good start. But of course, what she really wants to do is when we're talking about, oh, what are we going to do? She'll come up with these really complex scenarios, which take ages to implement. So it's hard to sort of scale her back to just think about really small things that we want to achieve. Alrighty, so we want to set our initial values for like our swap panel, right? We'll start that off. A second, better save that file. So we're going to start it off at its smallest width, right? So it's going to come in as a circle, and it's got a height request of 50. So we'll give it a width request of 50 as well. We're going to set it off scaling it from 0. So it's going to start off and then it's going to sort of scale in. So we'll say our swap panel dot scale is 0. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put some animations in for it. Okay, so let's put in some animations, animate in the swap panel. Okay, so we'll say parent animation dot add. This is something that happens right at the, well, sort of about halfway. It happens around about the same time as this description text. So I don't know, we'll put it here in the middle somewhere. Okay, so that's specifying how, where in the animation this is going to happen. So it's going to happen between 0.45 and 0.6. Just in the middle of our animation. So we'll say new animation and what we want to happen. Question there, Luan. Let's talk about that in just a second. Let me just get this line of code out while I'm thinking about it. So parent animation dot add. What we want to do is we want to get that swap panel, and we want to scale that to a value. Okay, and that value that we want to sort of get in there is between 0 and 1. So our start's going to be 0, our end is going to be 1. And for whether we really want an easing on it, we probably don't really need an easing on that so much, but easings add a lot of fun. So let's just put a sin in out here, which is kind of like the generic one, which sort of speeds up and then slows down. Okay, so that would do our, we're not giving it here. That spell. Let's also, so do I want to scale the X or the Y or the both? I think I want to scale both. Let's have a look at this, right? So when this comes in, see it's small in both the X and the Y. So we start off, right, scaling it into that point until it would come to a circle. And then we just want to scale the width of it. So I'm going to go for the full scale option here, X and Y. And then what we want to do is we then want to go ahead and we want to change the width request of this thing. All right, so this is going to happen while this is in play. So we'll say 0.5 to a little bit later on. So maybe like, I don't know, 0.7, 0.8, something like that. Okay. And we're going to change its width request. Okay. And we're going to go from 50. Okay. Okay, and we're going to go to 200. Okay, so there was a question there. Good morning, Asfaroth. Sorry, good evening. Okay, so question is, what's the difference between width and width request? Okay, because a particular control has a width and a width request. So first of all, let's say our swap panel, right? It has a width property, right? The width property is read-only. But there's also a width request, okay, which is settable. So the difference here, right, is because the way Xamarin.Forms, the Xamarin.Forms layout works is you have layout containers, and the layout container ultimately controls how big something's going to end up. All right. So let's say you have a page here. Okay. And inside of this page, I've got, I don't know, let's say a stack layout that's this big. Or it's only half the page. Now, when I put a control in here and I say, hey, I want to size this thing, right? I can give it a width request, which is saying, hey, I want to be the full width. Right? So I want to be the full width of the screen. For example, oh, we just got to follow Asfaroth. Subscribe for 2 months in a row. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, hang on. I'm supposed to be good about this because I want to track all of those things. Subscribe 2 months. Whoop, whoop. That's awesome. Thank you. Right. And we had another follow as well. I just know we did. Jimmy. All right, cool. Now back to our discussion of width requests and width heights. Oh, Lachlan Gordon making me work for my money. Lachlan Gordon subscribed 2 months in a row. Thank you, sir. Hang on, I've got to get Lachlan 2 months subscription. What a boss! What a boss! Hey Vidal, welcome. Hang on, I've got to play. A bit of Lachlan's. Damn you, Lachlan, the Incredible Hulk. Lachlan proving me wrong. Beautiful. Okay, let's talk about this. Sorry, we were talking about width requests. Okay, so here's the scenario. Right, we got a page. In Xamarin.Forms, we have layout containers. So let's say we have a layout container, which is say a stack layout, for example. And I say it's going to be this big, right, on the page. Now, it's ultimately the stack layout, or sorry, it's ultimately the layout container which controls the width of something, right? So if I had a control that I put inside of here and I said, you know what, I want this to be as wide as the screen, or I want it to fill horizontally, right? If I said, you know, I wanted a width request of this wide, and I put it inside of here, it can't get that width request, right? I can't satisfy that because the container is only this wide, right? And so therefore I can say, I can put a width request with whatever I like, but ultimately it's actually going to only size to this big. And so that's why width request is you asking the container, I'd like to be this size. But if the container can't satisfy that, like in this situation, then it's gonna basically make it as big as it can. It's gonna try and do as best it can. But if you want to see the final size, it's actually the width property, right? So that's why you can set a width request to whatever you like, but ultimately the size that you end up is the width property. So that's the difference between a width and a width request. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, cool. All right. So let's speaking of width requests, let's do this. Let's see if this works. So we're going to go to 50 to 200. Where's my emulator? Makes sense. Beautiful. Yeah, it's pretty confusing, particularly when if you come from something, you know, even like, I don't know, like I used to do a lot of Windows Forms stuff, you know, where width was settable, right? And that's because it doesn't have layout containers. But layout containers actually add a lot of power to your layouts. What's going on here? All right, here we go. Oh, there we go. So let's see that again. Here we go. Okay, so as we go to one of these, it comes in. Now, obviously what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to change this label here to appear a little bit later. So again, looking at this, it sort of comes in, it sizes itself, and then it appears just before it's finished sizing. Cool. So we'll give that a name. We'll animate its opacity. So this is going to be our swap label. We named it already, which is beautiful. So I pretty much here want to say, let's get our add. And for this one, it's just before the other one finishes. So let's put it at 0.6 and it's going to end. Again, this is the sort of painful part of doing animation. It's going to end, actually just start halfway. It's actually pretty quick. So maybe we'll make it end about 0.7. We'll make it end at the same time. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to say, let's go and get our swap label, opacity, and it's going to go from 0 to 1. And we'll stick with a linear easing for that. 0.1. What did I forget to do here? This goes to here. Bracket. Oh yeah, extra bracket. There we go. Beautiful. And we better actually set its opacity to begin with. Okay, so hopefully, and maybe what we'll do here is one of the cool things about adding all of these animations as child animations is we can slow it down. So instead of going over 3 seconds, let's make it go over 10 seconds so we can see what's going on. So this should slow down all of those animations for us. Right, so let's select this one. Cool, this animates in. That grows out, and then our swap appears. Beautiful. Right, let's see it again. I should just be able to save this because I've got hot reload. Hey, Brisbane. Apple Twitch, welcome. It again. Good morning from sunny Brisbane. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and add in our icon here. So with our icon, so what I did is I went and I got an SVG. Okay, so if we're going to have a look in the resources, I already went into Adobe XD and put this out, right? So SVGs are cool because they're going to resize nicely, right? Based on what we're going to use them for. Okay. Question there. Hey, Glenn Stevens. So the thing I'm using to add animations, is that something in Xamarin or is it a NuGet? No, this is all just standard Xamarin.Forms animation objects. So yeah, all just really nice there. Good morning from dark Quebec. Glenn Stevens, you've got sunny Queensland weather, I'm sure. Okay. So SVGs. Now, FF image loading has SVG support, so we can use that to basically display SVGs, and we can give it a size. So that's a really nice library that we can use. The other cool thing is I found this really nice link to how you can recolor SVGs as well. So we'll have a look at that. We'll copy some code in a moment, and we'll see how that works. Okay, but what I'm going to do first of all is add in a couple of libraries here. So I want to add some NuGet packages in here. So for those of you who are working with images, FF image loading, super awesome. So there's an FF image loading .forms. There's an svg.forms as well. Okay, and if I go and install that, that will bring in some other dependencies like FF image loading. Cannot access a disposed object. I don't know what that is. Okay. And hopefully what we can do now is we can come into our page, add ourselves some namespaces in here. Did you finish the swap animation already? We did, but we're just working on the icon for it at the moment. Okay, so let me show you that in just a second, Dragon. Okay, so we've got FF image SVG. And we're going to want to put this, so we have a grid. In this first column, this is where we're going to want to put the image. So I'm pretty sure we can come in here and we can say SVG cached image. Okay, and then we can set its, in fact, why don't we do this? Why don't we put that in there and we run this? We should be able to use our hot reload. Spam bots. Spamming, yeah, I haven't hit any spam bots yet, touch wood. Stationaut. Curious, never used Xamarin before. You don't make interfaces usually. Yeah, I really like interfaces. Probably more than back-end code, actually. Wait for this to deploy. So, oh, actually, you know what I'm probably going to have to do here? I'm probably going to have to do some initialization. In fact, I'm pretty sure I am. So this is probably going to fail, actually. Let's get this out of the way. Let's say SV. Look at this URL. SV. It's a terrible name to have in your history list. It's called SVG porn, which is a terrible name. My wife will be like, "What are you doing?" But actually, this is a really cool place to find SVGs. And what they do is they do logos in SVGs. So if you ever want a Xamarin logo, for example, do that. But don't let your wife see the URL, SVG porn. Okay. Now, what was I going to have a look at? FF image, image loading, SVG. Because there is some things that we need to put into our converting. Maybe there isn't. Ah, yes. Avoid linking issues. Go and add. I think we had to have this in. Okay, into our app delegate. All right. Okay, so it's running. So let's just try putting something in here. So the way that we specify source is we can use a thing like this. We can say resource : and then the name of the resource. So these are embedded resources. So it's going to be bookswap.resources.swap arrow. Get this and put it over here. And that doesn't seem to have worked. Sources is probably case sensitive as well. There it is. Okay, so there's that swap arrow. Now, we're going to want to size this and position it. Okay, so let me just put this over here. So we're gonna give it a width request. I don't know, like 20. Let's see how that looks. Height request at 20. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's in column 0. Maybe want to give it a little bit of margin to the right. Maybe we can just give it a bit of margin all around. It's kind of like XML with JavaScript. We're talking about XAML here. Yeah, XAML is really just a way of just describing UIs, basically. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We got it there, but what we need to do is we need to go ahead and recolor this bad boy. Okay, because if we have a look at our video of this, the color of that is the color of whatever the book is selected, right? The same as this text here is the same as this color. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna recolor it. Okay, so we'll have a look. Spatial or no, you're never disturbing.
Today we're gonna code lots
Hey Shane B. Davis, thanks for the follow and welcome. Let me add you to the list here. All right, just so as I can remember who's helping out. Okay, cool. So in case you just joined, Shane, what we're doing is we're basically reproducing a UI that we found on Dribble in Xamarin.Forms, and we're using XAML. So the questions around XAML, right? So what XAML is really just a way of describing UI. It's and it's actually pretty simple at its core. You can kind of think of XAML as when you have an opening tag or an element here like this, right? So open bracket grid. It's kind of like really just saying, it's kind of exactly the same as saying new grid. It'll be really hard to read, right? So when you have an element, that's a new. And when you set a property like horizontal options here, that's setting an attribute. So if I have a look at this code would sort of translate down to something like, let me see if I can write this here. This would be like, var x equals new grid. And then it would be like x dot horizontal options equals, and in this case, it would be layout options dot center. Okay, so it's really just kind of like object serialization, really, when it comes down to it, or object manipulation, I suppose. So it's just one way. It's a very Microsoft way of describing UIs. It's used in a bunch of different platforms like UWP and WPF. But with Xamarin, you don't have to use XAML if you don't like. Some people don't like XAML, right? There's a bit of a debate goes on in the community about, is it better to use a coded approach or is it better to use XAML? I like XAML because it kind of keeps my UI definition separate to my code. It's just my personal preference. I know other people have different preferences, but that's all right. We're inclusive. Okay, cool. So we've got our arrow there. We talked a little bit about XAML and what that is. The great thing about XAML is that you can actually, after you use it for long enough, you can kind of just sort of visualize what the UI is going to look like just by looking at your XAML. Kind of like looking at the matrix. Okay, let me see if I can find this link. Hang on a second. We've got SVG support. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this bit of code in, I bet, because otherwise it's going to link it out. So I better put this in. It's going to bite me in the bum at some point. And so before we load our application, let's say cached image renderer.init. Image renderer, is that what it is? Quick actions available. I think the cached image renderer, I remember. Have I got no IntelliSense? That's no good. Potential fixes. Ah, there we go. Oops, we don't have an init. There's a value in here. Cool. All right, and we better add it into our iOS as well, into our application delegate and our finish launching. And this one doesn't have a parameter. Beautiful. All right, cool. All right, so that's out of the way. Now, let me see if I can find article. Here it is. Here it is. So I was having a think about how we can do cached images. Tinting of images. All right. And what I found, this link here, is a very interesting approach to doing it, right? Which is basically creating a control called a tinted cache image, right? And so it has a bindable property of tint color. And the way it actually works is it adds a transformation, right? In FF image loading, they have a whole bunch of different transformations. So one of those is a tint transformation. And so you can basically specify this. Now, what this, if you read this GitHub issue, what this is all about is, well, actually being able to set a tint to a Xamarin.Forms color, because the tints don't support Xamarin.Forms colors, because the transformation library has to work cross-platform, so it doesn't depend on Xamarin.Forms. So this basically adds that in. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to steal this code. So it's a tinted cached image. So I tried this out the other day and it works. I'm going to add a, we're going to call this tinted cached image. Or it's really a tinted cached SVG, really, when it comes down to it. Okay, so this is going to require some usings, no doubt. Let's throw a few of these in. Beautiful. Okay, so what it has is it has a tint color property in which specifies the tint color. Okay, and it's a type of color, which means you can pass it as Xamarin.Forms color. And then what it does is it updates the color, and it basically comes in here, adds a tint transformation using that color. Now this is in a library called FF image loading transformations. Let me manage this and say, let's go, that's this one here. Okay, and so now I should add some usings in for this bad boy. Okay, and the one thing I did notice is they're setting the SVG image from a file. Okay, so here's a consideration for you with using images in cross-platform projects. Okay, different devices have different densities, right? Which means that you've got to provide a whole bunch of different image assets for those different densities. But SVGs kind of get around that because they are vector images, so they scale. They're basically just, instructions on, draw a path from here to here. Okay, so they scale really nicely. Now, what this bit of code does here is it actually says, go and get this SVG from a file. So it's going to actually look at the specific platform, okay? Because typically when you deal with images in Xamarin, you would put a whole bunch of different image resources for different densities in here. So exactly what I've done here. Now, and we could certainly do that. We could put the SVG inside of the Android and we could put it inside of the iOS, but actually I kind of like this idea of, given that it can scale, we don't need to have it in different platforms. So actually just stick it up here in my shared code, so I don't have to put it in multiple places. I don't know. It's an option there. Okay. Now with this one, I can set a resource. So I can say instance dot source equals SVG second. Where's this one come from? Right. Cool. So I should be able to set my source equal to an SVG. Image, image source, and I can get this from resource. Okay, so instead of just picking up the file from the platform, I'm going to read it from a resource. Rid of that there. And all things going well, that should work for us. Just having a look at that. Spatianaut, I usually use code directly, but sometimes when I try making something nicer, I get lost in translation. I'm French, I'm working with Spanish English people. Yep, fair enough. I tried programming for Android and I saw XML base string. Yeah, so look, Android's super complex, in my opinion. So it's kind of hard, but yeah, XAML, you can pretty much do most of the stuff in XAML. One thing about Xamarin.Forms though is, you know, if you're using something like styles and themes, you can still use the ones that exist on the platform, because in Xamarin we still actually create native UIs, so it can still use those styles. So question now, I'm trying to load an image in the code behind for building a PDF. I need the images stream. How would I load that? I think you can pretty much, you should be able to, like with a cached image, for example, you should find that in FF image loading, there would be like a from stream. And then you could pass it a stream and then load it from there. And then you could say, you know, my source equals, and I could actually get that from a stream. If I opened a stream, I could pass that, you know, pass the stream in here, and that should do it. You're unsure of what the path is to your image within your project. Okay, so it depends on whether it is an embedded resource, right? So I'm actually going to use the path to the embedded resource in just a second, right? Otherwise, it's going to just be the name of the file, right? If it's actually picking it up from a file, it'll be like Book Casino. It'd be under your drawables folder. If you're doing an embedded resource like I have here, then you've got to use the resource name. Let's try this. Okay. So here, for example, this SVG cached image here. So it's currently set as content inside of your platform specific project. So probably doesn't want to be that. Let's do a quick look at some docs. Xamarin.Forms images. So Dragon, if you use a link I gave you for it, gets the image based on the density. Okay, cool. Okay, here's a good link for you, Travidale. So this is the doc on images, right? So you can get it from streams, you can get it from resources, from files. Okay, on each of your platforms, you're going to put them in different places. Right, so an image in iOS is going to be either an image asset catalog, or it's going to be in your resources folder. In Android, you would put it in your resources drawables, but they have different build actions, right? So that's possibly what you're hitting there. If your build action is just content, it's not going to bundle it up for you. So the things in your Android would be Android resources. It's UWP. Okay, you're right. It is content for UWP. Beautiful. In that case, you should just be able to put in the name of it, and it should actually be able to find it. The path, so UWP, the default place that it looks is just in the root directory. So if you stick them under a different folder, you're gonna need to prefix that. Let's put in a namespace here. Yeah, I don't think you need the path because it's already going to assume the path. After here, let's swap. I'm going to use that control. Where we want to be? We want to be up here. I'm just going to run this first of all. Dragon says, if you need the path, you might be able to use the new file image source object and get the real path from that. Yeah, I haven't looked into it either, actually, Dragon. There was a post about it recently, I think, in one of the blogs. Let's just spin this bad boy up, and then we'll see if we can get that image tinted.
Sometimes things don't work.
Okay, that's not going to work. Beautiful. Copy pasta. Don't copy.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
That's to remind me not to copy code all the time. All right, cool. Let's do this. Instead of using this cached image, let's do this. Let's change it to a local tinted cached image. And get the SVG source, right, to the resource name. It's embedded resource. And then let's set its tint color equal to, and we'll get this from this color here. Okay, so the selected book. Use our bindings to get hold of those. Look at that. And it's tinted, which means if I come into another one, it's that green one, it's tinted green. That's actually pretty nice. Obviously, I've got to work with the animation there, but actually works pretty nice. And I don't know, I don't mind that approach for actually using SVGs and also tinting them to whatever you need to be. It's beautiful. Dragon, it bothers me that the example has arrows facing the other way. Does it? Look. So it does. Oh dear. Okay. So now you're right. It does. It does. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to. I have to fix that, right? That's how we roll. Let me load up Adobe XD here. Where we created this. In fact, do we want this one? One's better. I could flip it. The hand would be tricky. Exactly. Hi, President. You're right, President. I should just say, hey, I'm in Australia. It's the way we roll. Oh, hang on. Can we flip it? What rotation is it going to be? Rotation X equals. Is that the right way now? There we are. Same as in the trains. Well, there you go. I could just change it, and if we really wanted to, we could probably do the same thing with the book, except all the writing's going to be backwards. All right, let's just leave it like that, shall we? No, that's nasty. That's just doing extra work for no purpose. Should be able to do this, right? Should be able to come here. I don't know if I don't prefer this other arrow, which is a little bit thicker, actually. How big is this image? 22 by 22. Let's lock the aspect ratio. And let's make the border 2. There we are. That's... I could flip it, otherwise I'm going to do the same thing, right? How do I flip? You can do it. You can do it. There we are. Happy? You don't think I should worry about that? This is the whole... This is the joy of UI. Just worrying about these like ridiculously small details. That's why UI work takes ages. All right, let's go and grab that one. Oh, I better make sure I'm exporting the right thing here. Swap. Source. Book swap. Damn. Resources. I'm going to put it into there. And... I'm going to save it. Here we are. We say save it as an SVG. I don't really know about these settings, so I'm going to just leave those as they are. The UI, I don't think I could design this UI. I'm, using a UI that somebody's already designed. Let's go and replace that. Back to our project now. Let's get rid of that rotation. Check that it's still an embedded resource. It is. Now I'm pretty sure I'm not going to take that new image. Not the new image, is it? It's going to have to build it. Sorry, I don't think you could see that. I had it off my screen here. There we are. That's better. Now I can rotate it the right way. Let me check. Yeah. Okay, that's the right way. Beautiful. There, President. Now you don't have to worry. Okay, so let's give this a name because we're gonna have to animate it. So like our cycle arrow, something like that. Let's come back into here and let's animate that puppy. So it's going to start off with an opacity of 0. Oh, President. Hey, I was okay with... Oh, did I say President? Well, I meant Dragon. Dragon's the one who said it was driving him crazy. So, Capital Twitch says, that's right. All wants beautiful pixel perfect UIs, but don't want to pay the iteration, the time it takes. Exactly. UI stuff just takes ages. Takes ages to do UI stuff. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's animate in the arrow. Dragon and President blaming each other. I love it. We're just gonna play with the opacity. So I'm just gonna steal a bit of code here. What do we call it? Cycle arrow. Cycle arrow opacity goes from 0 to 1. Beautiful. It's going to happen after this. So let's say, I don't know, 0.8. Comes in pretty fast. Does a little rotate. There's two ways we could do this. We could actually make it keep rotating, or we could just sort of give it a spin. We'll just give it a spin, I think. That'll be easiest. So let's say we want to now adjust its rotation. So it's going to happen. The last thing that we do in their animation. Let's set our rotation. And I don't know, we'll go from 0 to 180. Sounds about right. And we'll set an easing. Like so. That will hopefully rotate it in the right direction. All right. That was all right. Let's have a look. Comes in, does a rotate. Do it again. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Space Not. If it wasn't for me, I would only use the terminal. Yeah, I'm a very graphical guy. Terminals freak me out a little bit. Even though my first job was programming mainframes. About that. And COBOL and Adabas Natural. Okay, I think we're good there. Beautiful. It's going to be an SVG, so it's going to scale nicely. Let's come back to our list of things that we need to do in today's stream. Done that. Rotated our swap icon. We talked about coloring. Did I use punch cards? I never use punch cards. I'm not that old. I used to draw on punch cards as a kid. How rude. How rude. Okay, what else have we got? We've got these bookmarks. See these bad boys up here? Okay, let's have a look at these bookmarks. With these bookmarks, they're appearing here. They've got a little bit of shadow going on here. President, you can make a joke. Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm not offended by being old. Just means I'm experienced, right? So if we have a look at this bookmark here, I think is using the color from this one, the accent color from this one, and this one's using the access color from that one. So we should be able to set that up. To do the shadow, this would just be, I don't know of a shadow. Does anyone know of a shadow library for Xamarin.Forms? I don't know of one. No, I don't know of one. Maybe it's time to write one. Maybe we should do that on a stream. Try and write a shadow library. Sounds tough. All right, let's do this. Let's grab our tinted cache image idea and let's apply it to go and put it over here. I've got this grid, I've got the pancake view with the description layout. I should just be able to like basically just sort of throw it in there, I reckon. And we'll get rid of this name and we'll get the resource, which is called something like bookmark.svg. There it is. That's a bookmark. Put this up here. So it's a little bit difficult when I'm doing these streams. Let me show you something. Second. When I'm doing these streams, I'm doing it on this really big monitor, but I'm only projecting this little part here. And so I've got to remember to put it up in the corner up here. Otherwise you can't see what I'm doing. So if I'm talking about something and it's not on screen, that's probably why. Anyway, okay, cool. So we're going to bookmark. What do we want to do with that bookmark? We pretty much want to say the width and the height. No, let's just give it a horizontal options. Give it a horizontal options of end. We'll give it a vertical options of start. That should put it up in the top corner. That's a good start. Yeah, it's one of the nice things about XAMLs. You're just sort of setting properties and yeah, it just sort of moves them around. Okay. So what I can do here is I can say, let's add a translation to it. Say translation. These width and height request, first of all. That looks. We reload? Right on. We need a width and a height. Okay, so let's give it a width request. Undo that. Nice setup. You like that, Capel? It's my streaming environment. Okay, so we want it to come up. So let's say translation y equals minus 10. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. We could give it a translation x as well. Equals minus 10. Let's see what that does. That puts it there. Possibly a little bit too far. Let's minus 6. Right. Set it to 6. No, that's not right. Let's set it. Actually, just set it to 0 and see if it was all right at 0. Yeah, it's probably about right at 0. Cool. All right. So now we've got ourselves a bookmark. With the bookmark here, so I could make a shadow by creating a second tinted image at the same position as the original, offset it slightly, and give it some transparency. Spot on. Cool idea, Dragon. Let's do that. Because I don't know of a shadow library. Okay. So we wanted to offset it down a little bit. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Right. So let's create a duplicate of this. Now we've got 2 of them. And then we'll say, we're going to give this a different color. So the color for the shadow, we could either, so let's say we went minus 8. Or 80. Give it a translation X of values. We'll have to see where this goes. Yeah, that's probably about right. And then we could do the opacity 0.5. That's not bad. I think though, the shadow is not based on the color of the bookmark, but rather the color of this. Let's try this. Instead of using the selected book, let's use the swap book color. Oh, okay. So the order that things are going to render in terms of the Z order is dependent on its order. So we want our shadow actually to be drawn first. So it's sort of based on the order it's in the XAML. Here we are. It's subtle, but it's there. If it has to be a little bit further. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a great solution. Yeah, nice solution. Let's try putting the same thing down the bottom. Let's see how that looks. So we want to add one down here. So we have our bottom book. Our grid with our pancake view. Yeah, not too bad. Okay, cool. But we want to switch the colors around, I think. Let's try that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Therefore, it should get the tinting, like if I select this one, green and yellow. Depends what the design is trying to do, I suppose. That works kind of nice. Quotes down the stream are really funny. Ah, the ones, yeah, I put it, I don't know, just to keep it lighthearted. So I reckon that's pretty good. Nice solution, nice and easy. What we do have to do is you have to animate them in, right? Because they're just appearing straight away. So let's do this. Let's, and in fact, we've got to do the whole animation for the bottom one, right? Because that's just appearing. We need to do the same animations that we do here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to name a bunch of objects. All right. So let's call this first one. This is our shadow one. So we're going to have to animate both of them in. So we'll call this like our swap from bookmark. Shadow. This one can be our swap from bookmark. Okay. And then while we're at it, let's do the bottom one as well. Did I just do the bottom one? I didn't. Selected bookmark. God, naming is hard, right? And this will be the shadow. This one we'll call a selected bookmark. Okay, cool. So I want to start those all off as transparent to begin with. Okay, so they're transparent. When this comes in, just as that's hitting the end of its animation, they appear. Okay. Fortunately, we don't yet have code reloading. So let's go see if we can remember the name of them. Selected bookmark equals 0.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim.
Hey, LeanX21. Thanks for the follow. And welcome. I think I missed a question before, now that you mention it, which is, what software am I making? So what I'm doing here is every Friday, and I wanted to talk to you guys about this actually. Every Friday, what I do is I do a different UI challenge. So I basically go across to Dribble and I find a UI that I like, that I think would be kind of challenging to implement. So this one, or something that would teach me something new. But also I'm trying to learn a little bit more about design skills, right? And so I find what really helps is actually just looking at designs and sort of breaking them apart to try and understand them. And that's to become a better designer for my own things, Right, so every Friday, I basically come along here and build out some different UIs. So if you're interested in ones that I've done in the past, if I go to YouTube and I go to my channel, I think this will be the link. I don't know. YouTube links are terrible. This should give you sort of a run through of the different UIs that we've produced. Anyway, that's the project that we're working on in order to answer that question. It's kind of not really a project. It's more just sort of playing with Xamarin.Forms UIs. But I did want to ask people what you thought would be good to stream. Would it be good to actually develop some applications from start to end? People interested in that? Which is kind of like a slower process, you know, because to build an application takes sometimes months. So I enjoy doing this stuff. So I'll probably continue doing this Friday, but I might add another stream where we just sort of slowly build up an application. So let me know if you think that would be interesting. So I got these, yeah, I'm meaning a Xamarin application. So, you know, something that which is like a real application which you'd publish to the store. So a Xamarin app with like perhaps an Azure backend, you know, data persistence, real view models, because I take a lot of liberties in these, you know, like I just sort of like smash in this view model, you know, I don't kind of architect it exactly right because I'm focusing on just the UI side of things. I don't know. That would be the idea. I just have to think of an app to build. If anyone's got an app they want me to build, let me know. Okay, so we're... You think it'd be interesting, cool seeing some of these things hooked up to a real back end, like a real world application. Yeah, that's a cool idea. I like that. So you learned a great deal from your UI challenges and how you go from an image to in Adobe XD. Yeah, cool. Because I don't know whether people want to see sort of more intro Xamarin.Forms stuff or whether it's me just sort of hacking out these. Yeah, my pleasure. Hello world. Scraping the wiki page to get all the mountains for any country. Is that for the mountain? Let's have a look. Let's see if it's in here. Do I still have it? I think I uninstalled it. One of the previous ones that we did. They're all in GitHub. Wait on. Let's have a look. GitHub.com/. Here's an example of a previous one. This is where the Iceland image is coming from. So this here was a cool UI challenge. I really enjoyed this one. So this one basically had two design elements. One was animating between mountains in Iceland. By the way, these are not Icelandic mountains, in case you're wondering. And then a horizontal one as well. So if you want to have a look at the code for this is... and also the streams as well. So in my GitHub repos, I always post out the streams as well once I've finished one. So I think we'll finish this one today. So I'll go ahead and I'll update this with the live coding sessions. Anyway, okay, cool. We need to animate in the bookmarks. So we're changing opacity. So I'm going to steal this bit of code here and do selected bookmark going from 0 to 1. Here's at the same time as description text, probably. Okay, let's just try those. Try it using those, see what they look like. So we have the bookmark, it's shadow, the from book shadow. So we're just bringing that opacity in. It's happening just before the swap panel comes. Happens just before the description background appears. So that's cool. Pretty far from what you do. It's pretty far from what I do as well. But I really enjoy it. I like making pretty things. All right. That's okay. That's okay. I don't mind that. Just appears. Let's slow this down. Pretty cool. Let's have a look at the video, see where things are. I think the shadows might be a little bit dark. Maybe we should just do the shadows until 0.5 of opacity. Apart from that, they're looking pretty good. So we'll say bookmark opacities, we'll go to 0.5. Beautiful. All right. Well, this is the challenge, Spacenaut. Exactly what was it Dragon saying? It would be nice to see some of these actually work. Because I'm just sort of pulling these designs from Dribble. It's hard to know exactly what the design is thinking. Often they have a description of what they're doing. But I think the idea here is that you have a book, you pick a book that somebody's willing to swap, you hit the swap button, and then I don't know, somehow it sends a message to the other person to get them to meet you. Maybe it's like Tinder for books, I don't know. And I suppose you swap the book. So I don't really know what it's supposed to do when they actually hit that button. So I can only guess the intent. And sometimes that's the hard bit about just sort of choosing one of these. All right, that looks a bit better. I like that. Okay, now what we are missing here at the moment is we're missing this bottom section animating. Right, the top section here is animating in all its elements. The bottom section, not so much. Antonio, it'd be great to see a simple project with a nice design with an API backend and how you submit it to the Apple or Google store. Yeah. maybe that's it. Maybe just create something that's nice and simple. I'll tell you an application I've wanted to build for a long time, and it's super simple, is if you've got kids, or even just for yourself, you know, sometimes people ask, well, your kids will say, you talk about like a elephant, and how big is an elephant? And so sometimes you need to put it in context for relative sizes. And so a converter, which allows you to convert relative things like how many football fields tall is the Eiffel Tower, or you know, how many bathtubs full of water in a swimming pool. I don't know, and it'll just be like a simple converter, but you can do it, you know, really nice UI. Hang on, Lachlan's got a link for me. So it's not letting me click on it. I'm going to trust you, Lachlan. There we go. Exactly. How far? A throw calculator. This calculator implements approximate throwing distance estimates. How far could George Washington throw? Ooh. I'm about 6 foot. Just gonna like put in a value here. Maybe I'll put in what I want to be. Yeah, I'm pretty much in that category. This is hilarious. Right, that's me. 81 rack units. How far could I throw a basketball? 81 meters. 11 smoots. I don't know what a smoot is. That's the kind of idea. Perhaps not as graphical as that. That's awesome. That's the idea. A squirrel. How far could a squirrel? A squirrel can't throw. Can you throw a baseball? No. Well, let's find out George Washington. 33 meters. What about me? What is it estimating as me throwing? Broken. That's awesome. Look at you. Awesome. Good old XKCD. Okay, let's finish this off. Select something. I need to change this text. I need to change this text. I need to steal some text. I need to do the animations down the bottom. So let's do those animations. Cool. So let's have a look at that bottom grid. We're going to have to give some things some names in this bottom grid. So the various things that we animate, in fact, pretty much the same as the top bit, right? So I'm going to actually split this. I'm going to go back up to the swap from book. Start off with that box view. Let's call this selected book border box view. It's a terrible name. All right. Naming's hard. Okay. We don't need the image because it's gonna just work for us. We need a from title. We need to give this a name. We'll call this selected book title label. I'll just keep it the naming the same. We can always fix up the naming because it does kind of suck. Gonna be author label. We have our description background. They're evil. Naming is so hard. And we've already got names for that one. We need our description text. Okay, cool. So now that I have names, we can go ahead and put them in here. So this is our initial view values. So we're going to have our, just trying to think, what are we doing? We're pretty much going to do the same thing except with, houses. Reynolds AV2. That's yeah, that's confusing. And then we'll have our descriptions here. So this will be a book description text. Opacity is 0. You know what? I could probably just do this, right? And just put selected book in front of it. This is just to set the values. Razor hard. I didn't see the emote. All right. Let's have a quick look at the reference. I think this is all animating in at the same time. Yep. Names come in, they pop out at the same time. They just go from different directions. Cool. So let's just steal these. Zorks. Just be able to do this, right? Book. These names are terrible. I'm gonna have to change them. In fact, I should be able to do this, right? I should be able to say selected book. Ah, beautiful. book background. Description back. Oh, the description background. So the description background is going to have to go the other way. So when you've got a control like this, you can set its anchor point where things are happening from. By default, it's at 0.5.5. So, so it's going to be there in the, in that. For this top one, we want it to animate out that way. So we set its anchor point to 0, anchor X to 0. This one, we want it to animate that way. So we'll set its anchor point to 1. Maybe that will work. I reckon you clipped it. Look at it. That's awesome. There is a lot of repetition in this code. I agree. And I've been because I do a lot of this animation stuff. I think there's a better way we can do it. And I think that is by giving them states, and we can say the starting state, you know, is, and we give it some values for the starting state, and then we give it the ending state, and then we just let it animate itself. But yeah, there is a lot of, it's not, the problem is it's not actually quite duplicated. Like you could, I suppose, write a method like these two lines here, for example, like this line here and this line here are pretty much the same except for the control, right? So I suppose you could create a method that just passes in a control, but you'd actually end up with even more code. So I don't know. I'm all for ideas though, because it does get pretty crazy. You know, you could put each of these into methods as well. I have no idea where I was up to. Put that in. We put the selected. I think we might be right. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not really a Xamarin question though, Spatial. It's just a clean code thing, and yeah, it's I don't like it either. Yeah. I think the answer is to create effectively a state engine. And we did that in the previous one. Right? Like a previous it was I remember what it was called. What was it called? It was just a really cheeky one we did at some point. I don't think Mountain has a state engine. There's one where we Look, I don't think it had a state engine. It was a one stream thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. What's a state engine? So, well, it's just a fancy word which basically says. Let me show you. Let me show you. I will find it here. It wasn't Marvel cards. It was something to do with the navigation bar, right? And not navigation patterns. Sidebar. Flyout. You can do it, Kim. You can do it. You can do it. Let me have a look. They should be basically in order here. Real estate. Fancy hamburger. Okay. This is the idea of a state engine. Yeah, exactly, Lachlan. Yeah. Fancy hamburger. So in this one, what we had, if we have a look, there was a thing called a storyboard. But if we have a look at the page, the way that we did it, this is kind of a cheeky way of doing it, right? So let me zoom this in. And this is, I'm thinking of building out this idea of a storyboard to be a lot more useful for us, right? So you basically say, I've got a state called state main. And when I'm in this state, this view or these views are at, say, certain positions and certain scales. And I've got this other state called nav drawer open, and here these objects have different values, different scales, different whatever. And it means you don't have to write as much animation. Instead, what you do in your code is you basically just say, hey, go to this state, and then it will take care of all of that code to animate to that new state. So that's the idea of a state engine. And if you want to read more about it, there was a good blog post, Xamarin blog, complex animations using a finite state machine. Kind of like keyframe animation, but more like just defining the start and the end point. And then, and so yeah, like keyframes, if you like, and then like a tweening engine to just say, yeah, you deal with making it go from there to there. That's your problem. And so that's the, yeah, there's a pretty cool blog post on it. And this, the state engine that's mentioned in here is actually quite simple, but maybe we can make it more powerful because nobody is more sick of writing this code than me. I've done this a lot. So yeah, maybe a state engine. Cool. Fantastic. So maybe no, it's not about this is not really work. So this is just playing around with code. So I'm not going to do it now. but you know, it's the kind of thing that's nice to write and then share out with the community. So Dragon, you said maybe one of your streams could be about making your streams more streamlined via class libraries that house code you use in pretty much every project. Yeah, I could, that's not a bad idea actually. I could pretty much go back through all of these UI challenges, and there's certain patterns that definitely I would want to have a look at, and maybe I can put them into a NuGet package. That's a good idea as well. I love it. I've got one called XDUtils, which has like one method in it. Imlib. Oh, I've already got one. Which is not XDUtils, it's XFUtils. Yeah. And this one here is pretty much where I put all my util classes. Except it's only got one at the moment. So cool. I like it. Or I could call it Kimlib. Yeah, what was I doing? We have named a bunch of stuff. I think we're running. I think we're going to test it out and see whether everything works nice. That didn't work nice. What happened there? All right. That did not work well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down these animations. Ah, that's why. Selected put. I was changing the anchor X on the wrong thing. All right. Copy, paste, fail.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
It looks like the jumpy thing I had at the beginning of the stream on the top is happening at the bottom. Oh, the shared transition. Yep, you're right. Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to remove it from the shared transition coming in, but I'm going to put it in to the one going out. Yeah, but that's pretty cool. Here it is in slow-mo. Okay, let's fix that up straight away. So what do? We said we remove. I'm going to remove these out of here. To author and to title. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add them into the transition after we've come in here. So we'll say transition.setName. Selected book author label to title. No, to author. Spell transition right. Okay, that should be about right, I reckon. And what I suspect, I need to dig into that library, but I suspect what's happening there is that when he does the transitions in his library, he does the positions of them, but he doesn't do the opacity as well. So maybe we could put a pull request in for that. Maybe that's west to shed transitions to transition opacity as well. Okay, cool. That's nicer. Beautiful. Some people don't understand to do a pull request in GitHub. Like me, you mean? But yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm just going to do 2 more things before we finish off. Okay, that's cool. What were the 2 things that I was going to do? What else do we need to do? I'm going to add some. I'm going to add some text into the view model for each of these books, and I'm also going to perhaps reduce the font size of it a little bit as well. And I think we're pretty much done with this one. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to find out in our book view model. We just put in some hipster ipsum in here. So I'm just gonna, here's our just gonna steal some of this. Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good actually. While I'm at it, I get to find out about what these books. You can say that in English. It looks pretty. Fairly pretty. Awesome. Plot summary. Where's the plot summary? We'll just grab some text. We don't need too much text. Ulysses. What's Ulysses about? This dude called Ulysses. It's gonna. The Odyssey. It is about the Odyssey. Man, there's so many books I have to read. See, like what I should be doing here, right, is I should be calling out to Goodreads or some API, right, and getting this data back. That would be awesome. City on the Edge. No idea what this book's about. Poignant love story. Hang on a second. That doesn't look right. That looks better. I didn't think it was a Star Trek book. The Hobbit. Yeah, one I finally know something about. All right, now we can actually put these things in. Phew. All right, so now that we have that, we can set up our bindings. Come on, here we go. Speed up that animation, and that doesn't right. I bet you down here we've got the wrong book for the description. What from book? Copy, paste, fail.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
All right, cool. And let's reduce the font size a little bit as well. Too much. Right, I reckon that's about right. Should the tint color also be selected book and not swap from book? Probably. So this is the tint. Oh, no. Wait on. This one, scroll back down. Wait on. So what have we got? We've got, that's the description text. Yep. This one here is the bookmark. So that should be the tint of this one. So they kind of swap. So that one's okay. That one's all right. And that one is all right as well, because that's the tint color of down here. So I think they're okay. Yeah, I think they're all right. But what I will do, let's do this. Should we create a, nah, that's Missing the title at the top of the swap page. Oh, okay. And let me just get this out of the way. Let me just adjust the font size. Bad boy here. And so that's looking pretty good. Okay. Oh, the title. Okay, hang on. Okay, so the top of the page. All right. And the background color as well. Okay, we can fix that, I'm sure. Set our title equal to, what was it? Right over the same spot. Match. Oh, actually, we did this on the front page, didn't we? Based off the selected book. Well. Bar background color is that. Who's that color? Red. Oh, I know why this isn't working. I bet you. Because remember we changed when we used the shared transition page. We're no longer using a navigation page. So we set up an implicit style for the navigation page, but this isn't a navigation. So I guess, I don't know, let's try this. Because it's not actually that type of page. Instead, it's a transition : a transition navigation page. Beautiful. Yeah, so when this is finished, it should work in iOS and Android. So pretty much what I try and do in the Xamarin.Forms UI challenges is not to use too much platform specific code, which you might do in a real project, but I try and keep it just sort of straight Xamarin Forms. And by doing so, it should just work the same on both platforms. Sometimes there are customizations you need to do. In fact, quite often you will have to do customizations per platform. So navigation page. We go and add that to our other one. That back arrow. I think there's a bug or there's a... Yeah, see, this is not going to work well on both platforms. Unfortunately, I don't have my Mac to test it out on. But it should work on both platforms pretty well. This back arrow. There's a pull request about this. I saw the other day. Yeah, I saw this the other day because I was hitting an issue. So yeah, I like Xamarin because I like programming in C#. And yeah, it allows me to do things cross-platform, which is super nice. Not change the background color on Android. Yeah. There we are, and somebody's fixed it. And it's coming out in version 4.3. That's what we have. We have a white background arrow. So it's possible to hide the clock and stuff at the top of the page as well with an Android specific. We did this before, right? I'm not sure you can do it with a specific. You can do it on iOS with a platform specific. Xamarin.Forms platform specifics. Like, I'm pretty sure. Platform specifics are just special bits of code for different platforms. Because, you know, Xamarin.Forms is supposed to be cross-platform, but these are things that only apply to one platform. Page status bar visibility. So you can do this in iOS, which is probably not a bad idea. We should do that. I can't test it at the moment, but do it anyway. Let's copy this bit of code into application. So that should take care of iOS, hopefully. And hide the navigation bar on iOS. On Android, it doesn't have one. Shame. Sorry.
Shame.
And
Shame. Shame.
Xamarin.Forms. Platform features. Navigation page bar height. Yeah, but we did this before. You can do it through through a style. Is it a style? Using the Windows flags. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we did it once before here. Let's see if we can nab some code. I think we did it in here. Yeah, Windows flags. There we go. So if we throw that into our Android, copy and paste it.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
after our on create. I don't know if it matters or not. And we'll just change our animation speed back, and I think we're almost done. Let's have a look. Let's see if it gets rid of. Yeah, it does. Gets rid of our toolbar. Beautiful. It's going to annoy me, the fact that there's a typo in there. All right. Anything else? I think we're pretty good, hey? I think we can claim victory on this one.
Today we're gonna code lots with
Hey,
Mr.
Dane
Kim
Alex.
Phil
Thanks for the follow.
Parson. Oh, how amazing
You've just caught us at the end of the stream. Maybe. I do need to test it on Android. Hey, I've got a scene. Hang on, let's see if this works. Oh, you've been lurking for a good while? Oh, here's the full Android edition. Gaming at the same time. What are you playing? Rainbow Six Siege with the wife. That's awesome. You got a wife that games as well. My wife doesn't game at all. I'm waiting for Borderlands 3 to come out. Then I'll do some gaming. Yeah, super excited. Oh, well, if you don't have people to game with, hit me up on Twitter. Maybe we can game some. I suck at games though. All right, I'm going to claim success on this one. I'm part of a gaming group called AOB, which is Angry Old Bastards. So it's just for like old people who haven't given up playing computer games. All right. I think we're done. We've been going for 2 hours. So, yeah. Okay. Well, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to some end credits to, which I think I can roll the credits. And this will say thanks to lots of people. And why we do that, you know, obviously thanks very much for joining us. We'll go and we'll play around with some different ideas around streams. We'll take some of those ideas that we talked about in regards to different things that we can try in the stream. I'm going to think up an idea of an application we can build, because that will help keep things a little bit more diverse, and perhaps stream those on different days, and maybe keep these ones as well, just as like gratuitous animation sessions. So you followed offline. Well, here, wait on. I can give you a special song just for you, Spationaut. Am I saying that right?
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Phil Parson. Oh, how amazing
It's just for you.
you'll be.
So Dane, you said is is Xamarin's a frequent on the stream? Do you mean, do I program in Xamarin? Pretty much, yeah. That's what I kind of try and keep this to, but I'll be doing a lot more Azure stuff probably as we go forward. Yeah, okay. What I want to do is I just want to see if there's anyone coding. You know, there's a dude, WinForms in ASP. No worries. Thanks, James. WinForms. I love WinForms. WinForms is the bomb. Should we go and I'm just trying to find people to raid to, because it's always fun to raid. There's this guy here, the Promigian, who I think works for Netflix. And so he actually streams writing Netflix code. We'll give him a quick raid. What do you think? It's always nice to raid. And I always raid wrong. Like I'm terrible at raiding. So bear with me. I'm going to start a raid. And go and say hi to this dude. And everyone have a fantastic weekend. God, I suck at this. Hang on a second. Let me, I'm gonna get it. I promise I'm gonna get it. Sorry, take care, Dragon. Have a good sleep. I'm sure it's, I think it's normally your bedtime at this point. No worries. Well, take care. Thanks again. Hang on. Why aren't you using propertychange.foddy? There we are. So take care. Have a great weekend. Let's raid. Say hi to the Promigian, and see you next week. You don't have to do anything. You just have to say hi. Bye for now.